is I want to go over keeping things very simple, identifying whatever the base need is, and then from there being able to go into options, basically how to look at things, okay, for like ages. It's just some notes you guys can take on this. Kind of like, we know how we do the review preview, basically like being able to do a review preview for yourself every single time you go into a house. So you know kind of what to expect or what areas, what directions you can go into, okay? So, the three of you guys have been here for a while. You've only been here for a couple weeks, so I know you've seen some stuff so far, okay? But I want to make sure that we don't necessarily get into something that's like too complicated that we need to be working with right now that we don't really need to be working with, okay? So keeping it simple is going to be what's the most important thing. So when we always look at the two biggest needs for most families, what are those going to be?
Final expenses and income protection.
Exactly. Here we go, brand new marker. Good. Okay. So final expenses. Focus. Focus.
Fog.
Okay. And then what was the other one?
Income.
Alright. So when we have a win week, or really a week where we're trying to write some bigger ALP, the first and most important thing is going into this week is that, what do you think?
FOC.
I'm just asking you, what do you think is the most important thing to being able to write a lot of premium over the course of a week?
Appointment setting.
Appointments, okay? So the first thing we always got to keep in mind that regardless of anything that we go over here, the most important thing is going to be making sure that we have more appointments, okay? So more appointments than we've ever had, and that also we have more sits than we've ever had. And also, if you want to keep it going, more referrals than you ever had as well, okay? So don't lose sight of that, okay? Because that's what's going to generate quality business. It's also going to generate giving you the opportunity to be able to write a larger amount of business as well, because it's purely activity to get in front of enough people, okay? But when it comes down to these two areas, it's very simple how we can get through this, and you can even have a little bit quicker of a presentation, to be honest with you. Okay, these are going to be the two main needs for everybody. When we think about freedom of choice, what age groups are we focusing in on?
50s and up.
50s and up, seniors, what are you saying?
50s and up.
Everyone.
Everyone. Okay, whether you're, 0 years old, because you're just born, or, you're 80 years old, because that's the last year that we can cover them, get them in the door, right? Get something, take some notes on this, okay? It's gonna help you out with some of these. Okay? There's gonna be a need for final expenses. There's a need permanently, right? But those are the age groups that we can help out. Basically 17 days old, all the way through to the age of 81. Okay? So these are the age groups that we can protect when it comes to that. And there's a need for every single person that we can fill that's 17 days old all the way until 81. Okay, where we can get them locked in as long as their health is good, right? So keep that in mind. Everyone you sit down with, there's always going to be a need for final expense. Even like the video says, right? From the day that you were born. So income protection, what'd you say?
You develop a need for final expense.
Exactly. So income protection, what do you think the ages are going to be more or less with income protection?
Like 20s to 50s.
Okay. So really I'm going to say, really once somebody has a child, or they're married and someone's dependent on their income, think about it like that. And the conversation I'm having with you guys right now as we're walking through this is like some of these things that you can use while you're in the home. I could, if I want to build up the need for final expenses, we went through and showed it all and everything like that, I could say, obviously, Joe depends on your income, right? If you weren't to come home tomorrow, it'd probably be a little bit harder for Joe, to pay the mortgage, keep food on the table, keep clothing on the kids' backs, So when you guys made that commitment to each other, okay, there also became a need to make sure that your income's protected if you don't go home tomorrow. You know, you can kind of think through stuff like that. You can use it as a close, you know? But really, I would say, basically, most cases it's gonna be like 20 to 55. I'm not gonna say that there's not a need when you move past this, let's say 55 to 65, but usually this 10 years here is where there's not as many people that have that need, okay? But here's the thing, when you're getting into these age groups, when you're like 50 to, let's say, 55, this is a great age group to sit down with because a lot of these people still don't have their final expenses taken care of, and a lot of them still do need income protection, or they do need their mortgage protected. So if you get into a situation where you're sitting down with somebody in their 50s, especially if they're in that 50 to 55 range, get excited because you can sell somebody $100 grand to take care of the rest of their mortgage over the next 10 years. And then they can take a paid up option at 65 and still have $30,000 to $40,000 in paid up life insurance, which always takes care of this year. That's where it becomes easy to get somebody to set aside, you know, $300 a month to make sure the mortgage is taken care of right now, and then down the road, when they retire, they can take that paid up option, and they're always going to know that their final expenses never be burdened onto their family ever again. Okay? So just taking a look at some of these age groups, okay? Get excited about these ages. You know? Think about it like if it was your parents. Just some things to think through. If you're in your 20s and you're sitting down with 20-year-olds, you know, that should be easy. You should be able to hold them accountable, right? Somebody that's outside of their parents' house that's making an income, you know, I feel like if you're dependent from your parents, like you're dependent, or I mean, you're dependent enough that you should be responsible for your final expenses. Okay, your parents should not be responsible for your final expenses. Don't be afraid to have that conversation with somebody that's in their 20s. Okay, let them know. You know, let's be honest, Brody. You know, we're both grown men, right? So as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people in our situation, we're responsible for making sure that our final expenses never burden onto our family. You know, our parents did everything they could to help give us every opportunity we've had to this point. You know, in most cases, that's the situation for most people. You know what I mean? Or at least gave you an opportunity. The last thing you really want to do is to leave a $30,000 bill if you pass away before your parents, right? So you can just continue to go through that. But just call, if you build up enough rapport, you can call people out on that stuff. But thinking about these age groups here, okay, really when it comes down to income protection, it's going to be these types of age groups where somebody has, let's just say, a dependent, or this could be children, it could be a spouse, you know, significant other. That's where you should be seeing these things. Okay? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the needs analysis is great. It's going to show us these types of things, but you know, it's our job to be able to take it to the next step. Because when I sit down with a husband and wife, and it only gives the husband mortgage protection and not the spouse, because it's the default or whatever it is, you know what I mean? That's not okay, especially when both husband and wife are making 50 grand each, you know, and they both have the same income coming into the house. They both have the same need if the other person passes away. Okay, so that's there. All right. Once we start getting to this point where, let's just say we're at 60 to 80, what can we do for these families? If somebody's not a POS, okay, you got to go big. To be honest with you, you're going to have to go over 30,000 to even be able to give them anything else. Okay, I don't know if you guys realize that, but on the super combo, you can give somebody a super combo, just the regular whole life. Obviously, it's harder for them to qualify for it, but you can do 30,100 on there. Okay, for somebody that's 60 years old. Okay, but you got to be able to go bigger. So if you're sitting down with somebody and they're saying, yeah, you know, I want to make sure the rest of my mortgage is taken care of. I got 100,000 left on my mortgage and they're 60 years old. Okay, and I want to be able to guarantee that if anything happens to me, after that point, that there's at least 100,000 in tax-free money coming into this house from my spouse. You can do that, okay? It's gonna be a big premium compared to what you're used to showing people, but that's something that you can do as well, okay? But primarily, that's not gonna be something that's popping up, mostly, okay? Usually when we get to the age of 60, it's gonna be just we're taking care of final expenses. Okay, so if we're taking a look at these age groups, this is kind of where we're gonna be. You know, if we go 0 to 20, usually this is gonna be Head Starts, right? You know, the 18. But really that's what you're gonna be thinking about. You're gonna be thinking about Head Starts. You're gonna be thinking about FOC, right? Freedom of choice. Thinking about final expenses. So for the first 20 years and the last 20 years, typically it's always gonna be just final expense. Okay, there's final expense for everybody, but if you want to kind of simplify your thinking when you're thinking about this stuff, 0 to 20, really, you know, and 60 to 80, typically it's always going to be these final expenses. All right. So that's where it's fun too, because you know this is a quick presentation. I'm going to get through all the no-cost benefits, collect my referrals, educate them enough on life insurance, expose the need of final expense protection. If it's somebody that's 60 to 80, this is simple, because we know the average cost for final expenses right now is 10 to 15. When we go out another 20 years, depending on how long they're going to live, it's going to be 20 to 30. So we're thinking these ranges for that when we're talking about final expenses. Okay, then it just comes down to seeing if they have anything. If they don't have anything, well, where do we want to be taking them? What do you think you want to show somebody if they don't have anything and they're 60 to 80 and the need is final expenses?
30, 20, 50.
Sure, you know, real simple, okay? So when we're in these age groups, you know, keep it simple. You know, all it's going to be 30,000. You know, you can go 20. And even if you want to keep it even more simple than that, you could even just do 10. Okay? There's an easy start. You know? When we simplify it to one major problem, it's easier for them to understand what the problem is, as opposed to just having this blanket of a bunch of things to look at. Okay? It's just like that analogy again with the lion tamer that I always go back to, where you know they have a stool. Well, you know, the analogy that I heard from that is that basically it's hard for them to focus. They can't focus in on all 4 of them, or 3, whatever, how many legs it has. You know what I mean? So basically they're like
Confused.
they're confused. They're kind of paralyzed. Okay? What's that?
Yeah, they use stools.
Did you ever see
Is that why?
a stool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's harder for them to, they can't focus in on one thing. Because there's 4, or there's 3, depending on the stool, you know what I mean? So just think about it like that. When you think about things too, is it easier for you to prioritize and have one important thing to happen, or to work on? Or is it easier for you to have 5 things? You know, it's a lot easier for us to focus in on one thing and go all in, you know? So keep that in mind when you're going here, that the biggest problem is always going to be the final expenses when you're 60 to 80. Down the road, I can even show you guys how if they're a POS or something like that, you can add on accidental death, even when they're like in their early 60s, as well as an extra income boost. Because what they found is that if something happens to you before the age of 65, before the age of retirement, most likely it's going to happen from an accident. And then we're not going to be contributing to our retirement over those last few years, so this can be set aside to help boost that, something like that, okay? But it's going to be primarily this here. When we're talking about the Head Starts, what are the amounts that we should be showing on the Head Starts when we're building that up?
25,000.
So first things first, 2 basic ones. Just always go preferred. Okay? Start there. If you had to reduce somebody down to get just their foot in the door at 10,000, you could back it off to the base. But always go preferred. So bump it over to the preferred. We know it's never going to show us a Head Start off the needs analysis. It'll show you the child rather, right? So you got to be able to know how to bump that over. But 25,000, and then 15,000, 100. Okay, under the preferred. Whole life, okay? If someone is a grandparent, the most that they can get for the grandchild is 25,000. Okay? If someone is a parent and they have at least $100,000 in coverage total, that doesn't have to be through us, but maybe through their work, through us, those types of things, then a parent, you could write 50,000 for the child.
So it can be like through work too?
Yeah, it could be through anything. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if it doesn't have to be through us. Just as long as they have at least 100 grand, they can get 50. Okay? So this is kind of what we're looking at in that 0 to 18 range, okay? Before they turn the age of 18. So think about it like that. The other thing you can do as well is if they're over the age of, what about ADB? You guys know about ADB, what the age is?
5 and up.
They're 5 years or plus old, you can do ADB for Head Starts. Now the most you can give them in the ADB is whatever the face amount is of the life insurance. So it's not, you can't sell someone that's on the age of 18 $25,000 in whole life and then give them $100,000 in accidental death. But what you can do is you could do 25,000 in whole life and 25,000 in accidental death, and then just let them know that's basically what everybody else is doing in your guys' situation. It's called a double indemnity benefit. So what it's going to do is it's going to lock in that 25,000 for the kids right now in the whole life, also 25,000 in accidental death. God forbid something happens down the road from an accident, it's going to pay out $50,000 total. Okay, so just some numbers to look at here. But most importantly, the great thing about the Head Start is the guaranteed insurability option. First of all, bring up things like when you're talking about this, compare it to other policies like Gerber. Okay? Don't bash Gerber because there's no reason to. You never need to belittle another company. But you can say, I could say to Hannah, I could say, now Hannah, I think it's, I think you've probably heard of Gerber before, right? Okay. Yeah, Gerber's a great company. They have really great benefits. I know a lot of the members we work with had coverage through them or still do. But the reason why they also have the Head Start, or just have the Head Start, is because it's anywhere from 20 to 50% less in the cost. Okay? And then also it has the guaranteed insurability option. So when I just write this down on a piece of paper, show the video, because it explains how it goes up in $25,000 increments 6 times. But I just put GIO, plus it also has the GIO, and I put 40 there. Okay? So what that allows your child to do when they're in your situation, when they're in their 20s and their 30s, maybe they're having kids, they're buying a home, they're getting married, it's going to allow them to increase their coverage up to an additional $150,000 through the age of 40, and we can't ask any medical questions. So even if something happened where somebody developed a heart condition, they went through cancer, maybe it was something like, I had a couple of brothers that I've worked with a few years back actually where they had epilepsy. A situation where most people wouldn't be able to get more coverage because of how serious their situation was. They were able to get more coverage and they didn't have to qualify. So you can go over some of those things. You can add some of that in there too. But if you're going with this here, even if you get somebody started out at the 15,000, because it's a little bit more, then go ahead and throw them on, if they're over the age of 5, 15,000 in the ADB. Okay? Whenever you're putting the guaranteed insurability option on there, always put 25,000. Because that allows them to get the max. So over there when you click off from the box where it says GIO, always put 25,000. Every single time, regardless of whether you sold them 10,000 or you sold them 25,000, you can give them 25,000 on a guaranteed insurability option. And that's going to allow them to increase it the most. Okay? So when we're going over this with the Head Starts, just always keep in mind, go ahead and build up the need. It's going to take care of their final expenses now. It's going to build up cash value. Costs never going to go up. Benefits never going to expire out. And then down the road, they're going to be able to increase their coverage when they need more for their family. Okay? And then basically roll out of this here. And let them know I'm going to show you a couple different options of what everybody else is doing in your situation. Okay? And make sure the kids are properly protected. they just come out, okay? So get in the habit of showing if you're gonna do an option close, choice close with them, do at least these two, okay? And again, this is 15,100. There's no reason for you to put the extra 100 in there. You don't even need to go with that. Let's say that this is, you know, $11.50, and this one is $9.25. Okay, and you're just closing down on that. Which one works best? After you recap what it's going to do. Okay. So let me take some of this stuff off the board. So do you guys have any questions on people from 0 to 18? No? Any questions? No? Do you have any questions on the Head Start, how to set it up, what they need to have?
What happens if, like, people in their 70s get Head Starts for their grandkids and their grandkids don't have parents?
What do you mean, they're not parents?
Like their parents died and their grandparents taking care of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, what happens when their grandparents die in 10 years?
Well, they died in 10 years, they can take it over. Somebody can take it over for them, paying for it, you know? That's all.
Okay.
It's not a very common situation that you'll run into.
I have people who, like, they have 2 grandkids living with them.
I understand. I'm just saying it's not a very common situation you run
Right.
into where somebody's going to be taking care of their grandkids at that age, where the children are going to be like so young that
Yeah.
they're not already going to be adults by the time that would happen. It's just not very typical.
Yeah.
But if that did happen, somebody else could take it over and help them pay for it. You know, or they maybe even have an account that would still continue to pay for it set up. They put a certain amount of money in there, something like that.
Okay.
So, like, how old are their kids? How old are the kids?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, typically that's not going to be a common situation. Like, usually if somebody's 70 years old and if they are taking care of their grandkids, most likely those grandkids are probably like in their teens at least. In most cases, you know. So that's what we're going to be focusing in on for really for that 0 to 18. Okay. Now once we get up to the 20 to really, I would say, like the 55 range, that's where we still have that need for final expense. Okay. But there's most likely going to be also a need there for income protection. Okay. When it comes to the seniors, again, be focusing on this. Be able to make the adjustments. If somebody tells me, let's just go through a little role play here. If we find out that somebody has $10,000 in whole life coverage for final expenses and they're 60, let's just say they're 63 years old. Okay. What do I know about this here? What they do have? It's not enough, but we got to be able to let them know, basically showing them what the costs are going to go to. You know, it obviously shows the video in there too, but really we got to be able to explain to them. I think you did a good job, Hannah, on making sure you have things taken care of right now. Okay. The problem isn't that people, you know, really plan to fail, but they kind of fail to plan. You know what I mean? So with what we have here, this is going to take care of if anything happens today. But what happens is as time goes on, these costs, they continue to go up, just like you saw. Okay, so everybody else in your situation is going to need at least $10,000 to $30,000 to make sure that none of these final expenses are never burdened onto our family. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple different options of what everybody else is doing in your situation to make sure that there's nothing else burdened onto your family. Okay, it's basically how you can get out of that. So what I'm saying is like, you could be sitting down with a POS, or you could be sitting down with anybody that has $10,000 in coverage, and we know that they need at least, if they're 63 years old, $20,000 to $30,000 to handle all this stuff.
Right.
So when you're coming back, just make your adjustments. So we know we need to get to at least here, right? So then we can come back. Maybe option A would be 20, right? 15 for B, and then C would be 10, something like that. Okay. If for some reason that's not comfortable for them, let them know, okay, well what we're going to do at least, Hannah, is we're going to make sure that we have at least this 15 locked in. So it'll get you a little bit closer to where you need to be. Okay? I don't even know if you can qualify. Let's see if you can even qualify. Alright? Do you guys have any questions on what this shows seniors? I mean, it's basic, you know what I mean? As we walk through the needs analysis, it's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna generate 15,000 for them though, really. You know what I mean? That's what always pops up if you look at that under there. Because it's like what it costs right now, all right? But we gotta be able to make the adjustments to be able to show them, if we leave there and they got 15,000 and they live another 20 years, it's still not gonna be enough. So when we go and see people, and even if it's POS, and they're saying, oh man, I feel like every time somebody comes back here, they're always trying to sell me, they're trying to up my coverage. I was like, yeah, it should be like, well, yeah, it's because the last agent, they didn't show you enough. You don't say that, you know what I mean? But it's just because
Just don't.
we gotta make the
The reason
adjustments.
we do that is because currently you're exposed.
Exactly. So my whole thought process is always, if I can put this family in a situation where they never have to qualify for life insurance again, at least for their final expenses, then I did my job. First of all, because they're gonna save money. Second of all, is because if their health changes, they don't even have an opportunity to get what they need. So that's the conversation you can have with them. Even if somebody says, you know, you're getting salesy or something like that, oh, you're just trying to sell me something, do you ever hear that? No? Okay, well, easy thing to bring up. Well, you know what, Brody? When I leave here today, this situation is really not gonna change, okay? It's just my job to make sure you understand where it's gonna be, okay? What's gonna be burden on your family if we don't take care of this, okay? And if they bring up something, you know, like, I feel like somebody's coming back here every time I'm trying to sell them more. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't here last time, but when I sit down with the family, it's my job to make sure you're properly protected permanently, okay? So I make sure I go over not only what the cost is right now, but what it's gonna be through your life expectancy. The last thing that I want is for you to ever be in a situation where this is burden onto your family, okay, number one, or for you to have to pay more for this stuff than what you need to, or eventually down the road not even have what you need because your health changes and you can't qualify. Okay? So we know that we need at least 10,000 to make sure that none of this is ever going to be burden on our family in the future. Okay? I don't even know if you can qualify. Let's see if you can even qualify. So I do the same thing in every single house. I say the same things. Like when I'm closing, and when you close, rebuttal, reiterate the point that you had to make, why it's important, because again, we need to be pinning the costs and being able to paint the picture of what's going on here, and then get right back into the close again, and then do the takeaway, and go ahead and see if they can even qualify, okay? But do you guys have any questions on the senior part? So I feel like, you know, 0 to 18, and really, you know, 60 to 80, those are like the easiest ones. Like you should be excited because you're like, hey, this is gonna be simple. There's a simple problem here, you know, I'm gonna give them a simple solution, and it's gonna be, okay, which one, you know, is gonna be most comfortable, basically. But we're gonna make sure that this is taken care of, okay? Even if you get into a situation with a senior, like we were talking about the other day, where they have some stuff paid for, that's fine. You know, make sure you set something that's gonna cover the extra expenses, okay? All right, so that's the easy parts, both of the bookends, okay? As far as the 20, let's just say 20 to 55. This is where it's still simple, because really we're only focusing on two major things here. Mortgage protection is a simple backup to reduce someone down, to be honest with you. You know, or even asking them what the most important one is to them. If they die, you know, if they die tomorrow, which one is going to be most important? Okay, ask them that. Which one do they want, you know, protected the most? So, but in this age group here, this is the spot where, if we're sitting down with child safe referrals, would I prefer that we focus in on with those? In a lot of cases, if they can qualify, if they have good health, is going to be more or less a lot of the income protection. You know, looking for that like $50 to $60, $50 to $65 check, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
They always pick it, right? And this is easy to build up when we're getting into this. If we're sitting down with families in this area here, even if you're taking care of income protection for the parents and Head Starts for the kids, it's 50 to 60 bucks every single time. 50 to $60 every single time. Okay? It's something that's comfortable for these families, because if you sit down with enough people over the years, you're going to find out that a lot of times when people have term insurance, and it's somewhere like in this ballpark, they're like, oh yeah, I don't even know what I pay. How many people have you sat down with and they're like, I don't really remember what I have, or I don't really know how much I pay, but I've had that for like 20 years.
It just comes out.
Just comes out automatically, I don't know.
I had a guy who didn't even know he had coverage.
You know? So,
Leaf guy got balls.
yeah, so think about that, you know? So that's the first thing is first of all, it's gonna be comfortable. It's okay for it to be comfortable. It's okay for us to get 10 checks
$2 checks.
that are 700 ALP. You know, because guess what? You're at 7,000. All right? But the activity generates that. So we always want to keep in mind that the key is activity, and then it's making sure that there's an identified problem that's simple, and then giving them a simple solution that's going to be comfortable so they can make sure that it stays permanent. Okay? But in these areas here, very simple. Go through the needs analysis, and again, I'm not telling you guys to skip any videos. I'm not telling you to not use the needs analysis. I'm not telling you to do any of that stuff. Okay? All I'm saying is that if we use those first 2 videos, they're extremely simple. And then if we can go ahead and put pen to paper and be able to do like the timeline for final expenses, or be able to just simply show them, okay, how important those 5 years are. I mean, that already pops up on the needs analysis. 5 years is already saying that, right? Just being able to reiterate, have that conversation, letting them know that, you know, it typically takes at least 5 years for families to get back on their feet when one of the breadwinners passes away during their main earning years. Okay? That's why everybody else in your situation has at least 5 years of their income protected when they die. It's that simple. Okay, that's a conversation, just reiterating what it's already going over. So when it comes to the income protection, here's the options that we should be showing. We got to take into consideration whatever they have to do their job. When you're getting into the needs analysis, we want to spend anything that they already have. Okay, so any other life insurance they have, we want to spend it. Okay, so when I'm getting into the needs analysis, I'm not asking them how much whole life insurance they have. Because guess what everybody wants all their life insurance to be, right? And the majority of people, if they do have whole life, we're talking about like $25,000 policies. Policies that are less than $50,000, most of them, okay? But if you let them, and you allow them to put, you know, their foot in your mouth, they're gonna be telling you, oh no, that's stuff I have through work. Yeah, I got like 200,000, it's all whole life. I don't pay anything for it, but it's all whole life. They told me it was whole life. Do you know what I mean? When you're having those conversations, that's happening, that's because you weren't proactive. And we gotta lead, not saying everybody's dummies, you gotta lead the dummies. Like you should only let them talk enough to not get you in trouble. Because you are the expert, they're not, okay? So when you're thinking about this, anything that they have, other life insurance is when we're going into that. What does it ask them first? What is the first question they ask about life insurance in these analysis?
Work.
Through work, right? So why don't we just say this? You know, one of the things that I started doing when I asked them about their work insurance is basically just telling them, oh, I'm sure you probably have life insurance through your job, right, Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what do you have? Maybe like 1 to 2 times your average income? That's what most of the guys have in your situation.
Yeah, like 40,000.
40,000, okay, and do you even pay anything for that?
No.
No, okay, yeah, usually, the great thing about the stuff through work is that usually it doesn't cost anything, or if it costs anything, it's really cheap. We always gotta keep in mind, that's gonna be there while we're working, but when we retire or we change jobs, that goes away. Okay, so it's good while we have it now, even for some income protection. See, I'll talk to them about that there, I'll even plant a seed, income protection, because I know where I'm going with this, okay? So, but I'm also going to be proactive and take control and even lead them into it, letting them know that most people have 1 to 2 times whatever their average income is through their job. If they're a part of a union, typically if they have a union policy, it's going to be 10 to 30,000. Okay, so just think about this when you're thinking about work insurance and talking to people about this. If you can become proactive, you eliminate a lot of the basically what their fairy tale amount of life insurance is. You know what I mean? That they don't even have. So when it comes to work, typically they're going to have 1 to 2 times their income, or they'll call it expected salary. Okay? When it comes to work insurance. Through the union, you're going to see people having 10 to 30,000. Okay? Now all of this is term. it's gonna be there while they're working. Then when they retire, they change jobs, it's greatly reduced or it goes away completely. Okay? You can even just say it goes away. Okay, don't even say that it's greatly reduced. Because usually the people that don't have something left over that's greatly reduced were the guys that were like a part of the United Steelworkers for 40 years. Okay? Which isn't happening anymore.
So somebody who's like, no, my work insurance is there for me for the rest of my life, doesn't know what they're talking about.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
No.
Is it 1 to 2 times their expected annual salary?
It's whatever, 1 to 2 times, sometimes they'll say their expected salary, it's just 1 to 2 times their income. Okay? And this is being gracious because typically they don't even have this.
Yeah.
This is making them feel, this is making making them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? Because typically they don't even have that.
Usually just like 10.
A lot of times they're just gonna have this stuff here. Okay? Where it'll be like 10 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we always ask them, do you pay anything for that? Okay, well, you might have that, you know what I mean? But most folks in your situation have 10 to 30,000. Okay? So I'm just telling you that because you can have this conversation with them now, instead of them telling you they have all this stuff and it ends up that they only have is accidental death. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And they're thinking that they're telling you their whole life. It's like, it's annoying. It's annoying when you've been doing this for 10 years and you're sitting down with somebody and they're telling you, oh yeah, I got that whole life insurance. I got that whole term life insurance. The whole term and I only pay $10 for it a month and it's 200,000.
Rebellion.
Yeah. Okay. So things to look for is going to be this here. When you're getting into that and talking about, oh, I'm sure you probably have insurance to your job, right? Well, here's 2 things that does. First of all, if they do have life insurance, you're telling them everybody has life insurance through their job. Okay? And then if you're proactive and you're letting them know kind of what people have, then it's going to fall in line with that. They're not going to be trying to make something up, like some pie in the sky. Okay? But furthermore, if they don't have life insurance, now they feel left out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it's a roundabout way of not making, saying, you don't have life insurance, right? You're making them feel bad about it, but you're just letting them know everybody else in your situation does have life insurance. Okay? Think about it like that. Do you guys have any questions on people's work insurance? You're hardly ever going to ever see a policy. If they have anything, they might have a booklet from their benefits and it'll just show what their options were. But this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be like. Okay, it's going to be like this here. All right. Past that, when it goes into whole life, I'm not asking them if they have whole life insurance. It's my job to figure that out by the amount that somebody has in life insurance and the cost. And it's my job to get the policy to the table if there's confusion on what they actually have through other policies. Okay, that's how I look at it. Because I don't want to give them, I don't want to build them up on how much they know about life insurance. Okay? I want them thinking that they don't know that much on life insurance. Because I'm the expert. It's like those people who used to walk into their house and they know something about everything. Mm-hmm. Typically they don't know crap about anything. They just kind of like the ego that they want to put that out there. So this is the work insurance part. Now what's the next question?
Have anything outside of work?
Good. Now do you guys have any other life insurance outside of work? I'm not asking how much whole life do you have? I'm never going to say that because they're going to tell you at least 50% of the time the person is going to tell you that it's all whole life insurance because that's what they want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And probably like
$100 grand.
5% of the time it actually is. Okay? So when we go into this, second thing is going to be, so we started off with the work insurance. I'm sure you probably have insurance to your job, right? Like just about everybody else. Like everybody else. Probably like 1 to 2 times, or if you're part of the union, maybe like 10 to 30,000. But what do you have? Do you have anything to your job? Maybe you say yes, maybe you say no. If you say no, now he's like, oh shit, yeah, we don't have any life insurance, do we? So now I'm planting that seed in his head that he knows it's a problem before I even said it was a problem. Okay? Coming out of that, now we're going to go into, now do you have any other life insurances outside of work? Okay, if somebody says yes, first thing I'm going to ask him is, oh, who's that with? Okay? If I ask him a certain company and I'm getting more knowledge in the business, I know kind of what some different companies do, what kind of policies they typically provide people with. So that can plant a little bit of seed in me. I'm not gonna say, if he says American General, oh man, that's terrible, you know? Because he might have like a universal policy or something like that, you know? Or if he says, Prime America, I'm not gonna come right out and say, oh man, that's not good, that's gonna be term, you know what I mean? But now I start knowing what might be there, so I can make sure he's properly educated on what he has, okay? So again, some companies, there's gonna be more, like if you think about American General, a lot of times there's gonna, or you think about like, even like the Baltimore Lives, or you think about like, you know, New York Life, or you think about, I'm trying to think about like American General, a lot of like the financial service companies too, whether it's like heavier on financial advising, like a lot of those companies are gonna see universal policies, okay? So a lot of times with State Farm, if it's a larger face amount, you're gonna see universal, and you're gonna see term. You know, you're gonna see those types of things. Nationwide, you're gonna see a lot of universal and term, okay? You're gonna see a lot of those types of products. So then you can kind of start figuring it out when you hear what the face amount is, which would be the next question. Oh, okay, how much do you guys have? Okay, so the first thing I would ask when I'm coming out of that, okay, who else are you guys working with? You know, who's that through? Okay, how much do you guys have? I'm not saying is it whole life or term, I'm just saying how much do you have, okay? And then even past that, somebody says, oh, okay, how long have you guys had that for? And how much you paying for it? So when you're going into other insurances, you can ask them, oh, do you guys have any other life insurance outside of work? Okay. Then what was the next thing?
Who's that through?
Yep. What was after that?
Or
Yep.
how long you had it?
These you can like kind of switch up, but yeah.
Oh, shoot, okay.
Okay. So this is where we're gathering up all the information that we need to take it to the next step and to spend what they have. Okay? Just key things to ask. Okay? What do they have through work? What do they have outside of work? What you're looking for here, this is what they're gonna have. 99% of the time is gonna fall in one of these two categories here through their job. It's our job to let them know that that's exactly why American Income is even in business. That's why we serve all these groups, is because every single one of them has group life insurance through their job. That's gonna be there while they're working, but then when they retire, it goes away. Okay? When you're getting outside of work, ask these questions. Don't ask, is it whole life, is it term? Because when we set people up, they're gonna be wanting to know that anyway themselves. If you let them guess, they're gonna guess the one that you don't want it to be, or the one that it probably isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is probably a better point. The one that it probably isn't, they're gonna guess. Okay? And then outside of work, who's that with? How much is that? How much do you have? How long have you had it? And then, how much do you pay? Okay. Do you guys have any questions on that part of it? I mean, that's just knowing how to ask questions in the needs analysis that are going to put you in a spot to be the expert, as opposed to trying to backpedal and have them put their foot in your mouth. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Okay. So as we're going through this, now what comes after this part here? Well, to be honest with you, right here, yeah, right here is where you can get their policy when you're figuring this stuff out. But what's the next question after this? It's mortgage, right? So when we're going into the mortgage, what was the insurance we were talking about the other day that is just there to protect the bank?
I know, like PIO or something like that.
PMI, right?
PIO.
PMI. Okay, so just keep in mind that we don't want to ask the question, oh, do you have insurance on your mortgage? You know, we're going through this. Oh, do you guys still have a mortgage?
Yes,
Oh, you do? Okay, how much would you say is left on that mortgage?
90,000.
90,000, how many more years you guys have left?
Like 15.
Okay, that's not too bad. Whatever they say, I don't care if they said it was $1 million and it's gonna be there for another 50 years. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say, oh, that's not too bad. You know? So build them up on that. So now we figured out that information, so we got that information. I know that you got a mortgage of 90 grand and it's gonna be there for at least 15 more years. Okay, so after I gather that information, now I know where I'm going there, that's at least a need as well. Now I know that even if this doesn't get taken care of, all 5 years of the income, I know that in my back pocket, there's always the mortgage to protect. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking in my head, there's 90,000, bingo. I know my option C is only 100,000, and that's what we need to do to get their foot in the door, at least taking care of the mortgage. You know? So as we're using this needs analysis as a tool to expose all the needs, we also need to be thinking, I'm thinking in my head, okay, I know that that's always my backup right there. So I'm thinking through the process, I'm thinking final expenses and income protection for somebody that's in this age range. And then I'm thinking if they have a mortgage, that's always the backup. You know? Because let's be honest, if we gave somebody 5 years of time with that income, they're gonna be able to take care of the mortgage. Okay? You can always, if the things are comfortable there, you can always throw that back on as well, okay? But we wanna keep it simple, because if something does happen, in most cases, it's gonna give them something that might not even protect both husband and wife, so now I know I can protect for both of them. So getting back to this. So after we've gathered up the information, what they have on the mortgage, now I'm gonna go and ask you, Josh. Now Josh, when you guys took out your mortgage, did you specifically take out a life insurance policy that would pay that mortgage off for each other if you died?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. You just said no. Okay. So now I already gathered that information. All right. If he says, oh yeah, I think maybe I have, but that's not. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people, unfortunately, sometimes think that they have life insurance on that policy. What it is PMI. It's an insurance program basically that protects the bank in case something happens to you, but it doesn't pay off the mortgage for your spouse. So did you guys take out a specific life insurance policy to pay off your mortgage when you die?
No.
No? Okay, so if you say it like that, you're not gonna get all the people that are saying, yeah, we have insurance with our loan. They don't know what insurance it is. They just know that at some point in time, there's probably insurance associated with that loan that they had there. Okay? They don't know who it's protecting. So 90% of these people, 95% of them do not have mortgage protection that you're gonna sit down with, okay? Some of them will. Typically, if they do, they're gonna say yes, right there. Yeah, we did take out, if you say a specific life insurance policy to pay off that mortgage, they're gonna say yes. And you'll see that it was there somewhere, okay? So just keep that in mind, all right? So that kind of covers the mortgage part of it as well. And really, what's left on the needs analysis past that?
Children's education.
Children's education, right? Children's education, if somebody cares enough about their family, you can just tack that on at the end. I'll be honest with you. Usually that's like something when you're talking to blue collar guys, that they're like, I don't give a shit, nobody paid for my school, I'll do it all right. You know what I mean? They can do it, they can take care of themselves. They're saying that bullshit. I'm like, I don't even want to hear that come out of their mouths. Because all they're doing is basically degrading how they feel about their family. I want them thinking about how they care about their family, how they don't want anything burdened onto them. So if I'm taking care of these things, these are typically the most common things that people are never going to rebuttal you on. Okay? And if they do, that's just because they're a knucklehead and they're a part of the numbers, you need to move on to the next family. Okay? So, do you guys have any questions on that so far? Or anything you want to know before I move on to the next part?
I have a question, like
Sure.
sometimes when I'm going over income protection, I'll say like, you know, if one of you died tomorrow, would you say that it would be harder for your family to get by financially? Like it would, your lifestyle would change, and sometimes they'll be like, no. What do you say to that?
I know. So that's where like my presentation over the years, when I feel these people really care about their family, I'll ask those questions. It's kind of like as you get more experience, you're gonna be able to fill some people out. We're trying to keep everything simple here, right? But I'm also talking to some people that I feel like can do big things here. And I've already done bigger things than a lot of people based off of activity, and you guys are doing a good job, okay? And working hard and putting in time. So there's some times where no, I don't say that. because I'm afraid of the answer that I'm gonna get.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's where it comes in being an expert, and when you're getting to that situation, proactively telling them, even, you know, when you're going through the benefits or what you're showing them or exposing the big problem. Because let's be honest, if they say no, they're full of shit, because they're gonna be on welfare and their family's not gonna have any money and they're gonna be struggling.
Right.
Okay, but they, somewhere in the back of their head, think that that's like an acceptable lifestyle. Well, guess what? Those kids, they don't have a choice. They don't get to have a choice in that matter if their parents are degenerate or doesn't really care to have something more than the lowest level of what is supposed to be there really to save people, not to be a lifestyle. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's where I started thinking about, depending on who I'm sitting down with, usually if you're gonna get that, you'll get that more with some child safe referrals.
Mhm.
Okay, so then it's our job to make sure that we're building up, you know, really what those kids, putting it on the kids more than even the parents. Okay, so it's about the 5 years of time for your spouse, right? But depending on who you're sitting with, sometimes it's more about the kids. Because sometimes they'll think more of that situation and making sure that money is there than the kids. So the answer to your question is sometimes when you ask that question, it works. That's really good. And sometimes when you ask that question, they put their foot in your mouth.
Mhm.
Okay, so I can't really give you an answer on that. What I would say though is the more that you put them in a group, the easier it is for them not to answer the question you don't want to answer that way.
Mhm.
So what they found, Hannah, is that it takes at least 5 years for your family to get back on their feet. Okay, when one of the main breadwinners is to pass away during the main earning year, something like that. Okay, just keep it simple. They found it takes at least 5 years for your family to get back on their feet. Okay, so what this is set up to do is just to set up to make sure that there's always going to be food on this table and a roof over your family's head. Okay, I don't know if you can qualify, but let's see if you can qualify. So I get the same thing. So when you're saying that, sometimes they answer the question the way that they don't want them to. I get the same exact thing sometimes. So the best thing to do with this, with the income protection, is basically just letting them know and showing them, just like the needs analysis said, it plays the video, right? What does it say in the video?
Mine doesn't grow on trees.
Okay, what else does it show?
We recommend having 5 years for income protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like it said there, recommend 5 years. Okay,
Right.
so the needs analysis shows that and everything, just continue to bring that up. Now the reason that it does recommend 5 years is because that's how long they found it takes for families to get back on their feet. When one of the main breadwinners passes away during their main earning years. Bring someone up like that.
Mhm.
When one of the parents dies, whatever it might be. Okay? If you're sitting down with people where it's a single parent and they're not making that much income, like maybe they're only making $1,000, $1,200. A lot of times those people are going to be like in their 20s and they have like a kid or two, right? And they're working a part-time job, just kind of getting by. You're sitting down with any of those child safe referrals, you can still do an income protection and do Head Starts, you know? It might only be $20, $25, you know? So there's little areas there where even if somebody's making $1,000 or $1,200 a month, they can still afford, if it's a priority, to set aside $30 a month to make sure, you know, that there's still gonna be something there for their children, or make sure the kids are locked in. So, as far as this age goes, when we're transitioning to this, most of the time it's not gonna be an issue. Most of the time they're not going to say that no, it wouldn't be a problem, because most of them they're saying, yeah, we would be screwed, you know what I mean? But you do have a couple of those people that you can still help out if you're proactive there. So I would say the majority of the time, asking that question, it's not gonna be an issue. But if you're sitting down with some knuckleheads, then it could be. So then just continue to group them into, well, what they found is that everybody else in your situation still has at least 5 years of their income coming into this house to make sure that your family will be able to get through that transitional period. Sometimes it's gonna be older people that'll say that as well. Well, now we go ahead and we can take income protection and let them know where they wouldn't be continuing to contribute to the retirement. This would be there to help out and be something they can contribute to their retirement. Because if somebody dies when they're, let's just even say the person was 59 years old when they died, maybe there's an extra 6 years there that they're not contributing to their retirement. Bring that up with them there too. Okay? All right. So in getting into the options that we would show people for this here, easiest options is if somebody has no life insurance, okay, there's not any life insurance there at all, I always go 7. That's what I always go with. Those are like my go-tos that I just go with. 7 years of their income, 5 years, and 3 years. So if somebody makes 50 grand a year, this would be 350. 150.
If any of those amounts are like less than what you can do with a 4-year RNC, you just go to a 10-year RNC.
Say that again?
Like if 5 years of their income is only like $50,000 or something, just do a 10-year.
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
If it's less, if 5 years of their income is going to be less than 100,000,
Mm-hmm.
then I just basically let them know when I'm explaining it that everybody has a minimum of 100,000. Like if I'm going through and I figure out what their income is,
Mm-hmm.
because we figured that out, that's right. What question is that on these analysis?
The first one.
First one, right? So I already know there when I'm going through this stuff too. And again, this is a whole process. Like I become a professional, so you can close 75% of these people.
Right.
Like you're gonna be getting to the point where you're so proactive on all this stuff, you see it before you even get there through the process of it. But it's through training and doing it a lot of times you get there. So if that's the case, here's where we go. Like I was talking about when we said somebody makes $1,200,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a month. So let's just say even that they only made $15,000 a year. So what would 5 years of their income be? 75,
Yeah.
right? Be 75,000. Well, if I go there, guess what? That 75,000 in the 10-year RNC is going to be more expensive than this.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I go here is because, especially if we're just trying to get somebody's foot in the door, make sure they're comfortable. My thought process was always, I don't want to have somebody setting aside more than they're going to be able to handle a couple of months down the road, when kind of like the emotion of what we just went through wears off, and something comes up that makes their situation a little uncomfortable, like the transmission in their car goes out or their water heater breaks, and now they're calling me to cancel their life insurance. Nowhere. Or they're trying to put a new roof on their house, or they're remodeling. Like, think about it like this. Even if somebody was paying $500 a month for their life insurance, what is that going to do to replace their roof, that $500? It costs more than $500 to replace your roof. You're going to have to take out money, or you're going to have to come up with a bigger amount of money to pay the 15 grand or whatever it is, or 20 grand to replace your roof. So my thought process was, I want to make this comfortable, so that down the road when things do get uncomfortable, because there's always going to be a time when something gets uncomfortable, that they're not going to this to be letting that go. Because first of all, they know the problem is so clear and so definite that this is a way bigger problem than them replacing their roof. But second of all, it's something that they've been able to make a priority, fit into their budget, and they know that they don't need to cancel it. When we set somebody up with something that is too much for them to handle, 3 or 4 months down the road, and they cancel it, now there's like this psychological battle that goes on with all these people where they don't even think that they can afford life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You ever sit down with somebody and they just say, oh no, we can't afford that right away? Typically it's because in a lot of cases those people had life insurance before and they were paying an amount that they couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see a lot of times. So you could be doing you could be kind of screwing their family over by setting them up with this huge policy, and then they can't afford it, and now down the road they keep on turning everybody off to ever try to help them out because they don't think they can afford life insurance.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
that's what I do. Like
So-
if it's less than 100,000, I just do 100,000 and just make
But show them
more
this.
years.
Right. So this is the typical situation. People are making enough income, everything's good to go.
Mhm.
Okay? Very simple way to show this here. All right? If it's like single mom, or if it's people that aren't making that much income, what we can do very easily is just let them know And like I said, when you're getting down to this income portion, when you're building up at least 5 years, or 100,000, at least a minimum of 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
When you see if their income is less than that. If it's not less than 100,000 for 5 years of it, then you need to say that.
Right.
But you can at least go into the fact that what everybody else has in your situation, Hannah, depending on their income, is at least 5 years of their income, or at least a minimum of 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Put it like that. Now I can come back. Guess what my option C is going to be, because it's the least that it can be, right?
Right.
It's 100,000. Then I'll do like 125, and then I'll do 150. Okay, when I'm coming back through this, now Hannah, just like we said before, your family needs at least 100,000 when you die, when you still have dependents,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to make sure there's still going to be a roof over their head and food on the table. I start talking about it like that, roof over their head and food on the table. I'm talking about that constantly with income protection. Why? Because when I say making sure that there's a roof over their head and food on the table, they're visualizing
No roof, no food.
no roof, no food, or they're visualizing, okay, yay, our family still has a roof over their head and food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sometimes that's even more important than them just visualizing 5 years of their income. It's just imagining their family with still having a roof over their head and food on the table. You know, point. If the kids are there, point to the kids. Hannah, what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that those children, okay, always have a roof over their head and food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And tap on the table. That makes it real. They're like, no one's going to yell at you and tell you to get out. If you build good rapport with them and you're a professional the whole time and you do that. That's how you close 75% of people down, like getting to that point. So when you get back to here, what I would do is I'll let them know. Now Hannah, the most that you can currently qualify for is $150,000, okay, in the income protection benefit, or you can call it the legacy. When it's somebody that's not making a big income, maybe they're not even working. Maybe it's a single mom that stays at home with her kids and she's getting child support, and she only has $1,000 or $1,200 coming into the house a month.
Mm-hmm.
Not that much. So it is hard for her to get by, okay? But when I get back into this, I can just let her know, I can call it legacy, the legacy protection plan. When I first started, I had business cards where I was just doing a lot of child save, and I called it the legacy protection and the Head Start protection. It was all part of the family protection program,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can use words like that, legacy, make sure they understand what that means. So coming back to this, now the most that you can qualify for, Hannah, is $150,000 to make sure that your family is properly protected and there's always going to be food on the table and a roof over their head. All that's going to be is just $30 a month. That's just $1 a day. Okay, and know that your children are going to be taken care of. Okay. Option B, this would be $125,000 in protection. Okay. This is going to make sure, obviously, that, again, there's still income coming into this house, making sure the kids still have money for clothes, making sure, if the kids are in sports, you see that they're in sports, you're doing a report, bring up that kind of thing. Kids are still going to be able to play sports, still going to be able to get the education you want them to get, okay? All that's going to be is just $22 a month, okay? It's like 60 cents a day. I don't even know what you can buy for 60 cents anymore. Maybe an apple, okay? Or option C, this is going to be $100,000, which is what is the minimum that all the other families have in your situation. Okay, all that's going to be is just $16 a month. It's basically 50 cents a day. Okay, so keep it in mind, Hannah, that your family is going to need all the money they can get and then some when you die. Which one of these options works best?
B.
B? Okay. All right. Obviously, that's what we know. Obviously, that's what we know you need. But I'm not even sure if you qualify. Well, let's see if you can even qualify. Have you ever been through AA? Have you ever, keep on, just go through it. Then when you come out of that, I know we were in the workshop the other day. When we come out of that, the easiest way to come out of the qualifying questions, if you've got them to commit to one here, okay, is to let them know. Now, Hannah, you don't say, it looks like you do qualify. It looks like it shouldn't be a problem to get you qualified, okay? And then you go into, now who do you want all that money to go to? Okay, they just picked an option. The reason this is such a strong close is because they picked an option. You exposed the need. You showed them the solutions, and now it's not me just telling them what they need. basically in a roundabout way, through this whole entire process, I just told them what they needed. But now I just made it their idea, because they got to pick which one is gonna work best to properly protect their family. So once you picked it, now I do a takeaway. Now I'm saying, okay, great, we know that's what we need, but I don't even know if you can qualify. Let's see if you can even qualify. Immediately, go right into the qualifying questions. You get through all that stuff. If you're having somebody that's being hard on you, and even you get to that point and they're saying, well, I don't know, we need to think about it. Okay, you're still getting that, I wanna think about it here, just because they're being wishy-washy. Now you can do a takeaway. I've closed people because of the fact that I did a takeaway. You know, when I was going through the medical questions and they said, somebody's being a real hard ass, okay? And they're saying, oh yeah, well, you went through like the high blood pressure or whatever it might be. And they're like, well, we're getting to this point here. And they're saying, I don't know if we can afford it, we need to think about it. Well, here's the thing, Hannah. I know you guys obviously see this as what your family needs, right? Okay, so I'm like getting her to commit to that, I'm shaking my head. And so I'm getting more yeses out of her. But you're not quite sure if it's quite comfortable yet? Okay, well here's the thing. Unfortunately, it's not just money that qualifies us, or excuse me, it's not just the money that qualifies us for this program. It's actually your health. Okay, I've sat down with members over the last week where they would have paid $500 a month to have this. Okay, if there was any way that we could give it to them, but they couldn't even qualify. Okay, so I know this is what we need, but I'm not sure if you can even qualify. So let's see if you can even qualify first. Okay, and then I go right back into it, it's like a takeaway, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna qualify? I told you before, I had a little girl, like, off to the side, like, playing with her toys and stuff that said, when I said that to her dad, she was like, Daddy, can you qualify? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very simple. There's not anything that I really went through so far that's complicated, right? I don't think so. It's like doing the same thing over and over again, and finding a way to simplify this, and just say the same things over and over again. You know, when you'd ask for something from your parents, did you think of 10 different ways to ask for it? No, you just ask the same way over and over again, and you're relentless. Do you know what I mean? So think about it like that, you know? But we're not asking for money to go and get candy, or we're not asking for money to, I don't know, go to the movies, you know? We're having that.
Roller skate.
What's that?
Go to an all-night roller skate.
Do an all-night roller skate. What we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity to make sure that their family is always gonna have food on this table and a roof over their head, okay? So when you get down to here, this is simple, okay? So let's say we went with this here, Hannah, and you're saying you can't afford it, you need to think about it. I do the takeaway. Now you're like, oh crap. I don't even know if I'm telling you, I don't even know if you can qualify, so let's just take a step back for a second. I don't even know if you can qualify for this. Okay? And I see that somebody has blood pressure medication. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't look like that should be an issue. You just take like, here's things, medications. If you mention medications when things come up, people think that I'm an expert because I can tell them what medications are on. It builds a lot of trust. So medications to think about too on this. So if it's high blood pressure, what's the most common? You guys know?
It's Lipitor.
No, it's lisinopril. I know that's not even how you spell it, but however you spell lisinopril. Okay? The most common one you're going to see is lisinopril. So when I see somebody, when I get to that question and I say, "Hi Hannah, do you have high blood pressure, any chest pains, heart attack, stroke, any cardiovascular disorder?" And you say, "Yeah,
High blood pressure.
high blood pressure." Okay, you're probably taking lisinopril, right? Is it just 20 milligrams?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. When I say that to somebody, then they're like, "Oh, you must have been doing this for a while." Okay, so you wanted somebody to trust you, start naming off some medications. So typically this is going to be 10 to 20 milligrams. And is that spelled right?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. For whatever reason, whenever I write on a whiteboard, I always question my spelling on things. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm vertical or what, I don't understand. But, so 10 to 20 milligrams, okay? So the things where you know it's okay, but it's okay to put a little fear in them, is going to be blood pressure. It's also gonna be, the other common one that you'll see right around the same area is going to be, what do you think?
Anxiety.
Oral diabetes.
No. So the next one I'm looking for, where I'm saying it's okay, where it's not a big concern, is going to be thyroid. Okay? So when somebody has a thyroid issue, which is pretty common, it's gonna be synthroid. Synthroid is what they're gonna take. Now, what does it say on the application though? We gotta make sure that we're saying thyroid instead of, starts with an E,
Endocrine system.
instead of endocrine disorder. So when you're going through and you're asking that, is that, what's right next to it? Is it
It's
diabetes?
diabetes or endocrine system disorders.
Yeah,
With
so-
diabetes,
so
thyroid,
say- you can say-
problems.
Anything as far as diabetes, endocrine disorder, like thyroid disorder, add that on there. And they said, oh yeah, I got thyroid. Oh, you probably take Synthroid, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, oh, who knows? Okay, so this is another common medication, okay? So these are two areas here where it's typically not gonna ever be an issue to get them qualified. There might be some instances where it's like an extreme case,
Because they're taking.
but these are just like, yeah, this is like the common things, two common ones that are real close to each other, where you can like, if you needed to, let them know, you know what, Hannah, I don't think that it's an issue right now with the blood pressure, because you're only taking the low dosage, the little Centerpol, 10 to 20 milligrams. But the problem is sometimes down the road, if your health changes any more, you might not be able to qualify. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make sure that we get your foot in the door, make sure we at least have this to guarantee there's gonna be food on your family's table and roof over their head, okay, and also lock in your health. Okay, that's only gonna be $16 a month, it's only 50 cents a day. Obviously, that's comfortable for you, right? Okay, so that's what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying, you think that'll be comfortable for you? No, I'm saying, obviously, that's gonna be comfortable for you, right? Okay, I'm shaking my head. So then they start shaking their head, and they're like, yeah, you are right. Let's do this, make sure they're protected. Okay, so there's two. These are gonna be kind of like good ones, okay? So when we're getting into, it depends. Depression is not, and anxiety is not always an issue. But if there's certain levels, or if somebody has been hospitalized before, then it becomes a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Okay, to get them qualified. So when we're talking about 4-year RNCs, these types of things are not an issue. Okay? It's a lot easier for somebody to qualify for 0 to 30,000 in whole life
That is for-
than it is for any other product, regardless of what their health is. This is the easiest, the base plan is the easiest thing for them to qualify for. If we're gonna give them a 4-year RNC, the company is taking on more risk because it's a large face amount
Small.
and it's a small premium. Okay, so taking on more risk, so we gotta be a little bit more careful with the underwriting. But typically we're using those for people that are younger. So typically they don't have as many issues. Okay? So keep that in mind. More of the things you would look for this might become an issue would be is if they've had like a bunch of DUIs, they've been arrested, this, that, and everything else. Okay, that'll become an issue more with the 4-year RNC. So just continue off of this. So if they have diabetes, what is the pill form?
Metformin.
Yep. So it's going to be metformin.
It's either 500 or 1,000 milligrams.
So when I'm sitting down with somebody that's 60 years or older, does that matter?
No.
No. Does it matter if they're taking insulin? No. Okay. So that's the good thing because previously, when I first started, it did matter because we didn't have the same product that we have now.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then insulin. Those are some things there, okay? Those will be the ones that you'll see the most, all right? When it comes to depression or anxiety, I'm not gonna say that they can't ever qualify, but usually it is, depending on if they've had any type of like hospitalization or anything like that. Typically bipolar will typically be hard for them to qualify for. If they have a situation where they're on some medications for like anxiety, depression, or for bipolar, go ahead and put it through to trial it. You know, just trial it. Because if it comes back and they're able to qualify, good. If they're not able to qualify, you let them know there. Easy way to let someone off the hook so you don't have to make them feel bad. because let's be honest, there's lots of people that are dealing with stuff, right? Is very simply let them know if it's like several medications or something like that. Even if they're taking one medication and you know it's for like bipolar or something like that, again, it doesn't mean that they won't qualify. It's just harder because there's different levels of everything when it comes to psychological, right? There's different levels. There could be a very minimal situation and there could be, you know, a max situation. So just let them know, just because we are on medication for that, okay, we do have to make sure that we trial this. So all that means is that it doesn't mean that you won't be able to get the coverage, but basically it'll go through the underwriting process first, and then it'll come back and they'll let us know kind of what our options are. Okay, really there's three things that can happen. It could be issued and go through standard actually. It could be rated, which means it might cost a couple extra bucks, but you can still be covered. Or potentially could be declined and not be able to qualify right now. Okay, so you can put it through like that. We should be doing a couple, I would say like every single week. It's healthy to have a trial or two. Because if you're doing trials on a regular basis, it's usually better for underwriting because you're not trying to put stuff through that you're not sure about. Okay, but also at the end of the month or a month later, when some of this stuff does come through, there could be like an extra 2,000 ALP if we're consistently doing trials when we're thinking about getting to the next home. Like, I don't know if I'll get this. There's gonna be some that'll come through. There's gonna be some that'll come back where they'll decline it and they'll give them 5,000. It's called a decline counteroffer, where they can't write them, let's say, 30,000 that you wanted to, but they'll issue them 5,000 in whole life. Depending on someone's situation, that's going to give them something rather than nothing. You know, and it could be a way for them to even get their foot in the door, and then down the road, they can try and reapply again. Even if it's a situation that they're in their 50s, you can say, okay, well, we can at least get you 5,000 locked in right now, and then when you turn 60 years old, because we have a senior product that can help you out then, we can take care of the rest of this. But at least right now, if something happens to you today, we're not going to be able to do, you know, some crazy funeral, but it'll at least make sure that some of this is taken care of for your family. Or at least you can do something more conservative. Okay? Something like that.
When you trial something, like the result of it comes to us and then we talk to
If
the
they
member?
You'll get a letter.
if they get declined, they get a letter
Yeah, but a lot of times you'll get a letter too in your mailbox
that they got
Mhm.
declined.
that I got declined.
Now if they get rated, obviously you got.
So
rated or
what you
approved,
can do
gotta
is
call 'em.
if when you get that letter, okay, you can go ahead and give them a call back. Let's say that you only wrote up a certain amount for the spouse. Now you can let them know, say they just went with like what the spouse needed. Maybe they're not gonna be able to qualify. And you can go back out and if you proactively told them, now if for some reason this doesn't go through for us, Hannah, what we can do is I can come back out and since Joe can qualify, what most of the families do in that situation is we can't get you covered right now, they'll actually put twice as much coverage on him or whatever would be needed to build up enough cash value so that down the road, if something happened to you before Joe, he could actually use that cash value to pay for your final expenses. Okay? If I know that somebody's gonna be declined, I just do that right away. Okay? So you could do something like that as well. But if something happens to Joe before you, he has twice as much coverage. So you're gonna be able to use what you need to take care of his final expenses from there, and then you can save the rest to know that yours is never gonna be burdened onto your family. Make sense? Okay. So those are some medications. These are the ones that'll pop up the most.
Remember when you're going through for the anxiety, depression, that's the mental or nervous system disorders. Make sure you say anything like any mental or nervous system problems such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, because a lot of times people don't realize that anxiety, depression, bipolar are mental or nervous system disorders.
Right, yeah.
If you just said mental and nervous system disorders, they're like, oh no, I'm fine. They're thinking that like they're psychotic. Is what we're talking
And if it's something just like somebody's taking some medication because they have like anxiety, like there's tons of people that are on medication just for anxiety. It doesn't mean that it's like something that's like life-threatening or anything like
Exactly.
that.
It could just be because they've had an accident or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything serious, but it's still a medication that they're taking. So there's things that come up. They gotta be able to make sure that, you know, if they insure somebody, the person's not gonna croak. Not that they're gonna croak, they're gonna like go kill themselves or something like that.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I've had that.
That's the biggest reason why they ask those questions.
Like the first part, they'll say like no to everything, and then I'll get to the medication, and then they'll say yes.
Right.
Well, what do you take medication for that you said
Yep.
no to on this stuff?
Yeah, that's why when you go into that section there, okay, that's where you should be asking that question, okay?
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, if it's like one medication, they're not disabled from it, they're still working, they haven't missed time at work, they haven't been hospitalized or anything like that, well, you're good to go. Just make sure you put it on the application and fill out the depression questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And let them know at the end, when you're going to rated risk, that they could receive, you know, a rating, okay, potentially, just because they're on medication.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't be anything that significant, you know? All right, so do you guys have any questions on this stuff here? So just memorize this stuff. You're gonna memorize it over time, but if I can tell you right now, where I've just been doing this for like the last year or two, you guys can start doing it from a couple months into business. It'll help you out, okay? So those are good ones. The diabetes is gonna be like the insulin, it's gonna be the metformin. If they're over the age of 60, no big deal, all right? So getting back to this here, these are gonna be the options that we're gonna be working with. If it's somebody that's not making at least, let's just say, enough for, you know, if they're not making at least what, $20,000 a year. Okay, show them those options. Start off there, okay? Maybe if we could say 25, you know? So as we collect the information on the mortgage, let's say I'm sitting down with somebody and it comes out to, like we said originally, we got 350, we got 250, and we got 150. So this is 7 years, 5 and 3. Depending on who I'm sitting down with, if they're making enough income, see if they don't have a mortgage, things look like they're pretty good. I'll even whip these out and just do it in whole life coverage. Okay? If I feel like somebody can handle this and I, see the opportunity, I can pull it out and show them whole life insurance. Basically show them that, okay, the guy's 30 years old. I saw lots of people like this, or even if they're 50, you can still do this. Okay, you'll sit down with somebody that's going to be in a situation, if you show this, where they're going to pick one of these. Then it's a matter of whether it's comfortable or not. Okay? If they're in a situation where they don't have a mortgage, a lot of guys, business owners, it's not a big deal for them to pay, say this was $350, for them to pay $700, or to pay, whatever this might be. Say this was, $600. Maybe this was, depending on how old they are, might be like $450. Okay? So if you think that it's a big number, they're going to think it's a big number. I'm not looking for us to pull checks like this all day long, because I know that the people that do this and they don't know how to do it properly, they're not here in 6 months from now. Okay? Every single one of us can build enough rapport to get somebody to set that aside if you're open-minded to it. But that's the thing, is we need to make sure that we're doing this properly. So when it comes back to this here, and let's just say it was a referral, we're just taking care of their income because they already have some things taken care of. And what do we say that these amounts were?
What is it, 150, 125, 100?
I was just saying as far as the life insurance, it was a 4-year RNC. Whatever it was, let's just say it came out to, like this was $60, and this was 45, and this was 30, okay? And these people are kind of upside down with their mortgage, they're overextended, they're paying way too much money out. We gotta continue to build up the fact that, okay, well, we have all these things going on, right? But if you don't come home tomorrow, none of them are taken care of, okay? Your family's not even gonna have a roof over their head and food on the table. So we're bringing it up to here, and you're saying, yeah, I can't even afford, let's just say these are more. Let's say this was like 50, 75, and maybe this was 100. Okay, and this was like 50 down here. And it tells me that she can't afford $50 a month. Okay? Well, here's the thing, Hannah. Okay, I know that this is what you need, right? It's just not quite comfortable for us to set aside the $50 a month to make sure those extra 3 years of income are coming into this house. Okay? Right? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Is it important that your family still has a roof over their head if you don't come home tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Would you say it's extremely important to make sure that there's still going to be food on the table? Okay. All right. Well, we do have one other option. Again, this is 7 years of your income. This is 5, and this is 3. But I do remember we said when we were going over your mortgage, right? How much was your mortgage?
100.
It was 100,000. Okay. Or say it was like 90 or whatever it was. Okay. Well, here's the most important thing. If something happens to us tomorrow, What's the biggest bill that you guys have? Is your mortgage? Yeah, for most families, it's their mortgage, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the mortgage protection. Might be a way for you guys to make sure that everything's still taken care of, there's a roof over your family's head. You don't come home tomorrow, okay? And then when things are a little bit more comfortable down the road, okay, then we can make sure the rest of this income is protected. But let me pull this up here and I'll show you how that works. I'm gonna say with 100,000. Okay, now that 100,000, maybe it's only like, what would it be, like 35 bucks a month or something? You know, this was 15, 25. Yeah, let's just say it was like 35 bucks a month. Okay, I could go down to this here, let them know. Now, all that's gonna be, I know we said that it was most important to make sure that there's still a roof over your family's head. So that $100,000 benefit there is set up to make sure that if you don't come home tomorrow, your mortgage is gonna be paid off for your family. All that's gonna be is just $35 a month. Now that's obviously more comfortable for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'll go into qualifying. Okay, so that's a way how you can reduce down. When we're reducing, there's a couple of ways to look at this, and I know I went over this with a few of you guys, but you can reduce down by taking away the life insurance, taking away the need, and just reducing down on price. When we take away the benefit, just to reduce down on price, those are the people that cancel, because they don't see the value in it. So whenever we reduce down, we have to rebuild the value in what it's going to take care of their family. That's why being able to go from, you know, whole life and 10-year RNC and accidental, instead of just taking away the 10-year RNC and the accidental, go into a 4-year RNC. You know what I mean? Doing those types of things. So instead of them having $30,000 in coverage, and mom and dad pass away and all their funerals are taken care of, and nothing else is taken care of, now the family can, for the same price as the $30,000 in whole life, they can have their income and their mortgage protected with a 4-year RNC and an ADB. Because we know how to use different products, you know? I think I walked you guys through that the one Saturday, right? Where we went from like, what was it, like $200 or $300 a month, down to like $90 a month, you know? And we actually had more, they had more life insurance. So, okay? So these are just some few areas that I wanted to go through with you. As far as the benefits, if we take a look at the ages again, 0 to 18 is going to be final expenses, right? 60 to 80 is going to be final expenses. Just go based off of what their life expectancy is. Okay? So when somebody's 60 to 80, we're thinking from 0 to 30,000. If somebody is in this age group here, we're taking care of those final expenses, really with the 25,000 and the 15, and then having the guaranteed insurability. When we're getting in this range here, if it goes to the point where they have all this other stuff taken care of, like their income, their mortgage, they got a bunch of life insurance through their job and term insurance, then we need to be able to take the next step, and where it comes up to just showing that they have final expense need, show them what the cost is today, and then going out through their life expectancy. There's another way of how you can get somebody set up on a 4-year RNC when they say they can't afford, you know, let's say 35 bucks a month. You get their foot in the door for $15 a month, and now they have the convertibility. Okay? So, before I move on to that real quick, do you guys have any questions on any of this stuff?
What about like if somebody is like really wanting the final expense, but they're like really young? So like long term, they need like 100,000, but there's no way they can afford that.
That's fine, give them what they want. If they're telling me that they're adamant about wanting that, one or two different things. If they can't afford the 100,000, you can go through and get it in a 4-year RNC. But if I'm sitting down with somebody and they really are just focusing on the final expenses, well, I'll give them the options. Let's just take a look at this here. Okay, so let's say that I get to the point, I go through the needs analysis, it's showing that the cost for final expenses right now, Hannah, are $15,000, right? So it showed us on the video. That's as of 2015, right? So you have a notepad and a pen, you can just pull out a piece of paper and go over this. All you're first of all starting to do is just reconfirming what the video said. So you remember what the video said? What is the cost for a final expense is going to go up to? 30,000, right? So when we take a look at this, if we fast forward 20 years down the road, just with average inflation, the cost for these final expenses
in 2035 is going to double, because it doubles every 20 years. So it's gonna be 30,000, okay? Now, Hannah, you're only, let's say somebody's 24 years old. You're only 24 years old. So the average life expectancy, you notice how how I put these lines all together and stuff when you're drawing this out, is actually 80 to 84. So what that means is we actually need to go out another 20 years, out here to 2055, okay? In 2055, the average cost is gonna be 60,000, okay? Now, if we bump out another 20 years, that actually gets us out here 60 years down the road, okay? The average cost for final expenses 60 years down the road, I know this is gonna sound crazy, is gonna be 120,000 to make sure that all of our final expenses are handled and all those loose ends are wrapped up at the end of our life. Okay, we have an inflation chart too, if you want to use that. I don't get into that because there's a ton of numbers on it, and for somebody that's 20 years old, it only goes out for like the next 40 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually take you out this far.
Yeah, and it puts it in like two columns, there's 3%, 4% inflation and all this
Right.
bullshit.
So if you go by this, what the max is really, that's where it's going to take you. If you want to start off, just so they're not like, oh my word, that can't be. You know what I mean? Well, take a step back. Okay, when we take a look at average final expenses, it really depends on what you want, whether you want a cremation or you want an earth burial. On average right now, the cost for that earth burial, like we saw right there, okay, where it took care of everything, was right around 15,000. If you want to do a cremation, it's going to be a little bit less. But actually the cost for cremation has been going up a lot more because there's a higher demand for it, right? So right now the average cost is 10 to 15,000. So if we fast forward 20 years from now, because everything doubles with inflation over the next 20 years, it's going to be 20 to 30,000. If we fast forward another 20 years out there, it's going to be 40 to 60. If we fast forward to our average life expectancy, it's going to be 80 to 120. So everybody that's in your situation, your age bracket, Hannah, is going to need a benefit of at least 80 to 120,000. Let's just say 100,000, take the middle, to make sure that none of their final expenses never burden onto their family. So now I established what the problem is. Now down the road, even if I don't get this taken care of, at least this person knows what they're going to need. So that if somebody ever comes back out, to help them get to the next step of it, now they're not saying, well, you guys just come out here trying to sell us more insurance. No, you know that if I give you 30 right now, you still need more.
Right.
So now when that next agent comes out there, they're not saying, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. They're saying, yeah, he did mention that I would need more. So yeah, we might as well take care of the rest of this now. Get it out of the way so things are more comfortable. It's a way for us to be proactive for ourselves, but also for future agents as well. Because if they know what the full problem is, now they're not thinking that 30,000 is all they need for the rest of their life, when that only takes care of the next 20 years. So when I come back to this, if they want this the final expenses, they want the whole life, well, the options that I'm going to show this person here is, first of all, what I would start out with, okay, is if they're making a decent income, okay, I'm saying they have a job that they're making, let's just say even like, I don't know, like at least 30,000. Depending on the union, some of these guys, if they're 24 years old, they could be making 50, 60 grand, you know, depending on what they're doing, they could be making more than that, you know. But I might start off with this here. If I know that their income is decent, then I might go 100 and then go 50.
Right.
Okay? That's if they have a good income. If it's just like some person that's just kind of like working, normal job, maybe even working part-time or something like that, they see the need in it, they want to take care of those final expenses, well, then what I can do is I can come back like this, you know, and do like 100, do 50, and do 30. Okay, so those are options that I will show them here. If I know that their income is only like,
You would still
15,
show them
20,000.
100?
yeah. Because guess what? Some people are going to pick that because, let's think about it, the guy's 24 years old. This is 65 bucks. It's like as much as a video game, and he has like 20 of them sitting over there with his Xbox or whatever people play now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that much money. And the other thing is, too,
I don't
is-
think it's a lot of money, I just feel it, I just get nervous.
Why?
this might be 45.
Because they don't make that much money. Like, they're making like,
Do you know how many people there are that myself and Brian Welsh have seen that are like 25 to 30 years old, and they have anywhere from like $100,000 to $200,000 in whole life coverage, and what they made per month was like 30,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe even a little bit less than that. Or people that I've gone back to, and then showed them how they could have 2 select life policies. If it's a priority, keep in mind, if it's a priority, it's going to stay on.
Yeah.
If they're making at least that much money, because they can go out and blow $100. There's people that can blow $100 on each Friday and Saturday night, and they're only making $1,500 a month. You know what I mean? So if it's a priority, it'll stay on as long as we did that. Okay. But if you're doing $65, $65 is nothing. Like, how many other bills do they even have that are $65? Not that many. That's a tank of gas. You know what I mean?
It's a night out.
It's a night out. You know, it's dinner or something like that. And then this one might come in and be like, what would that be, maybe like $25 or something like that. So if you think about it, when you get to these options here, you can let them know. Now, the one that you get the most bang for your buck is actually option A. Is what they call a select life policy. Basically, with American Income, the more life insurance you buy at once, the cheaper it is. Okay, so this one, the cost is the cheapest per $1,000 of coverage. This $100,000, this would guarantee that all your final expenses are taken care of through your life expectancy. And actually, if you got to the age of retirement and you wanted to stop paying on this, your paid up insurance is going to be worth right around $84,000. You know, it's $90,000 actually because you're only 24. Right around $90,000, so it's going to put you over this here. So even if you never change your life insurance ever again, you know that you're probably protected right now, and then down the road, you can stop paying on this, and you're always going to have what you need. All that's going to be is just $65 per month. That's only $2 a day. You know, that's less than that's like a coffee a day. Okay. Option B. This is the one that I see a lot of folks go with in your situation. Okay, because what it's going to do is it's basically going to get at least half locked in what you need. It's going to take care of all your final expenses through the next 40 years, okay? And all that's going to be is just $45 a month, it's $1.50 a day. That's it, okay? And then option C, this would be just getting our foot in the door. It's going to guarantee that we have about 1/3 of what we need, okay? But you're going to be good to go right now. And then also through the next 20 years of your life, down the road when things are more comfortable, you could always increase it as well, okay? All that's going to be just $25 a month, so that's less than $1 a day. So keeping in mind here that our family is going to need,
Coverage.
you know, is going to need to be able to take care of these final expenses. Which one of these options works best?
A.
A? Okay. That's the one that like I said, that's the one that I see a lot of folks go with, okay? When they really want to make sure they're getting the most bang for their buck. Now, I don't know if you can even qualify for that, so let's see if you can even qualify. It's a little bit harder to qualify for the select life, so let's see if you can qualify. Anyway, do that, okay? Now, if we got to that point and you're showing them, like if it's somebody that you're not quite sure about their income, I always go with these here. Because what happens is now what I can do after this is if they decide that they can't afford any of these, well, first of all, in some cases, some people can't afford it because they don't see the value in a smaller amount of the benefit. Okay? So maybe you're saying you can't afford it right now? Right now? Okay, so right now it's not quite comfortable for you to set aside what we would need to make sure this is locked in the whole life, right? Okay, I just want to make sure I understood. Okay. Well, there is one other benefit that they set up for folks that are in your situation. It's a transitional benefit. Basically, the way that it works is it gets everything locked in that you need right now. Okay. But then it's a term benefit that so that's why it's cheaper. But then down the road, as soon as things become more comfortable, you can actually convert it over into the whole life. Let me pull that up and see if that's something that might be more comfortable for you. Okay, then I pulled up in the 100,000, right? I pull up and I show up in the R&C, you know, and it comes out and it's only $18 a month. Okay. So this is the R&C benefit of the 100,000 in coverage. So it'll be guaranteeing that you have everything locked in you need for the rest of your life. Down the road again, when things are more comfortable, maybe when you finish up school, because I know you're working part-time and you're going to school part-time, then we can make sure you get this converted over into that whole life coverage so you build up that extra cash value and all that paid up insurance. Okay? But all that's going to be is just $18 a month. Okay? Obviously that's more comfortable for you, right? It's only 50 cents a day. Okay, well let's see if you can even qualify. Okay, but I always want to start off bigger, because when I start off bigger, okay, and always make sure we're going from A to C the largest to the smallest number.
Right.
Okay, also B, that's the one we're always saying, this is the one that most folks go with in your situation.
Mhm.
Guess which one they usually pick? B, because you put them in a group,
Mhm.
okay? But then you always have these R and Cs that back you up. If you're sitting down with somebody that's a little bit older, they're that like 40 to 55 range, and they're a tobacco user, they're like, oh man, I don't know if we can afford this in whole life coverage, but they know they need the final expense protection. That's where you would go to 10-year. 10-year R&C is the best for freedom of choice, final expenses, when people are in that 40 to 55 range. To get it locked in, so they have what they need, and then down the road they're gonna have the convertibility. It's the best product to use when you can't get them to set aside what they need to for the whole everything. Okay? The reason why is because if they're just focusing on final expenses like we're talking about, and maybe this, if somebody's 40 years old, what is their, let's just say they're like 42. They're 42 right now, we're gonna have to go out 40 years, right? The average life expectancy, so it's gonna be 40 to 60. Well, when you're getting that range, if somebody's a tobacco user, if somebody's kind of not doing the best with their money, they're not making the biggest income, you can start getting into some pretty nice premiums, okay, depending on their situation. I'm not saying that they're a lot, but for some people's situations, they might be more than what they can set aside at that time. So if you feel that, instead of us saying, okay, we're just gonna get you 10,000 right now, even though we know you need another 30, and down the road, when your health changes, you're not even gonna be able to get the other 30, why don't I come back and give them a 10-year R&C that's gonna give them what they need right now? It's gonna be cheaper, okay? And it's gonna be cheaper in most cases, depending on where they're at than the 4-year R&C, okay? And we can just, because that's their focus, just get those final expenses locked in.
I think like where I get like tripped up is like showing people like 4-year and 10-year RNCs for like final expenses, because then they start asking like, okay, well when I convert it over, is it gonna be the same?
No.
No, obviously it's not. So then it's like, I don't know.
You're letting them know, here's how we explain it, okay? The way that we explain it is, you're gonna have everything you need right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything happens to you tomorrow, it's gonna make sure that these final expenses are taken care of, and there's gonna be some extra income. Down the road, okay, when things are more comfortable, we're gonna be able to convert this over into what you need permanently, okay? Yes, it's gonna be more, okay? Most people understand that, okay? But if that comes back and that's the question, it'll let them know, yeah, Hannah, that's gonna be whatever the cost is at that age, okay? But one of the hardest parts of my job is when I sit down with the family and we know what they need right now, okay? And they don't get this taken care of and locked in, and then 4, 5, 6 years down the road, somebody else comes back out here to catch up with them, and we gotta tell them they can't even qualify for what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So most importantly, what it's gonna do for you right now is gonna give you what you need. It's gonna lock in this rate for the next 10 years, which, keep in mind, you can continue to keep this in force, okay, all the way up to the age of 65, 70, whichever it is when they hit their period there, okay? But down the road, most importantly, when things are comfortable, even if your health changes, you're always gonna know that you have everything that you need to make sure your final expenses aren't burden on your family, okay? You come back with these options here.
And Hannah, remember a lot of times when they ask that, they literally are just asking a question because they're not sure. Like, don't
Yeah.
think that they're trying to rebuttal you. A lot of times they're just like, so is that gonna go up on me? Yeah.
Yeah, you just look, yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times when they're asking that, it's not a negative thing. You're thinking, oh shit, you know what I mean? They're gonna think that that's bad. No, like, it's common sense to think that down the road, if you get it locked in whole life, that it's gonna cost more money, because it already costs more money. Do you know what I mean? So for them, it's not typically a thing that's an issue. Especially if you keep on building back up, the fact that it gets their health locked in right now, and they'll always have what they need,
Right.
okay?
Because I had a guy that was like, so when I convert that over, does the cash value go over? I go, no, because there's no cash value since it's currently a term benefit, but when it's whole life, you know, then it will have cash value. He goes, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, just bring it up, we're like, well, why don't I just wait until then? Well, because if something happens right now, there's nothing to take care of final expenses. Not to mention if your health changes in any way, because to be honest with you, it's not your money that qualifies you for this benefit, it's your health. If your health changes in any way, you don't have any options.
This gives you options.
It's a whole lot easier for us to set aside, you know, let's say this was $45. whatever it might be. It's a whole lot easier for us to set aside $1.50 a day right now, knowing that you have everything you need right now. And then down the road, you're always gonna have an opportunity to convert over what you need permanently. I don't even know if you qualify, let's see if you can even qualify. Okay, so does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, so typically, like some of this stuff is not, it'll come up every once in a while, it comes up for me too, and I just let them know. Yeah, when you convert it over, it's gonna be whatever the cost of the whole life is for you at that age. And then sometimes they'll ask, well, why do I want that? And then I have to go back and recap again, because we know we're gonna need at least $40,000 to take care of all these final expenses. Okay, so by getting it locked in right now, not only are you protected to make sure your final expenses are taken care of right now, if something happens, there's gonna be extra income coming into this home. And then down the road, instead of not being able to qualify or paying a lot more for this stuff, at any point in time, you can convert it over into the whole life coverage. Okay, now I'll see if you can even qualify. All right, Brody, what kind of questions do you have, man?
Not really.
Anything?
You, nah.
You got any questions, Sarah?
I don't think so.
Anything you can think of? You got any questions, Anthony?
My only question that I really have is about like converting the policy.
Okay.
I just have like a couple questions.
Sure.
Because I've never actually ran into a situation like where we've had the opportunity to convert someone's policy.
Okay.
So I'm just like a little confused on it. So like with our 10-year RNCs, if they renew it, we don't ask medical questions, right?
Here's how it works. Whatever the face amount is. So let's say we set something up. Doesn't matter what the face amount is.
Right.
Okay, whether it's a 4-year RNC, a 10-year RNC,
Mm-hmm.
none of that matters. Okay, all of them are RNC policies, so they're renewable and convertible in the whole life. So the way it works is, let's say we set somebody up with 100,000 in a 4-year RNC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or it could be 30,000 in a 10-year RNC. This could be a 10 years, doesn't matter. Whatever their face amount is, you're able to convert over up to this amount into whole life without any medical questions asked,
Okay.
because they already qualified for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you want to convert over accidental death or waiver of premium, or you want to add on to the policy where it didn't have accidental death or waiver of premium, then you have to go through and qualify. Some of the accidental stuff you don't have to, because some of the stuff is like minor if they already had a certain amount locked in. Because there's people that freaking sell $50,000 ones over the phone here that are on the call team. So that's not that really big of an issue, $50,000. But more than that, like waiver of premium, for instance. Okay, you have to be able to ask the medical questions, because think about it. That's talking about giving something to someone that would waive their premiums on their policy if their health changes or they get in an accident where they can no longer work.
Right.
Okay, or if you wanted to say you have somebody at 100,000 and now they want 150,000, they want to convert over this into 150,000 whole life, you have to ask the medical questions because you're adding more.
Right.
So anything as far as the full face amount or down, you can convert over without any medical questions asked. And all it basically is, you get a paper application, you write down the amount on there that they're converting over, okay, of the face amount, and then whatever the current price is for the whole life for that amount of life insurance, you collect a check for that full premium for a month, and we get it converted over. And then you get paid off of the difference of what the last agent wrote to what you're writing.
Okay.
So if the current premium is
So-
$20,
Yeah,
That's
say it was
$100
$20,
you get
and
paid
now
off
it's
80.
100. Yeah, now it's 100. You get a check. Get them to write out a check for the $100, and then what you'll get credit for is the $80 difference. Okay. Now this person isn't going to be paying $120 a month. You know, now they're just paying the $100 a month. But now they have 100,000 in whole life instead of 100,000 in the 4-year RNC.
So when you're trying to calculate the ALP on that, would you calculate 100 times 12, or would you do 80 times 12?
No, this is just the check. You have to collect the check for that month's premium, but you subtract whatever the previous policy amount was. So if it was $20 a month, there's 80, so the part that you get credit for is the 80. You don't get credit for the 100. Okay?
So how much is that?
Right, but I'm saying like on the application, you know how, you don't put the ALP on the application, never mind.
How much is their premium gonna
$100 bucks. So we're saying their previous premium was $20, now you convert in the whole life, now it's $100. So that other agent still gets
The $20.
residuals on the 20 bucks. You will get paid and get renewals on the 80,
Okay.
okay?
Are
So
you
that's
asking like
good.
how to figure out like what their new premium is, like when the term goes away?
be?
Is that?
Yeah, it's just whatever the cost of the whole life is.
They don't have to drop the remaining amount of term coverage, do they? Like if they say, like, they turn it into 50,000 whole life, they can keep 50,000 in term.
Mhm.
So you gotta make sure that you factor that into the premium when you're talking.
But you, like, this year, if it's 100,000 in that, I mean, you're converting it over a lesser amount, you can do that. But in most cases, it's, you know, maybe a situation, you can continue to let that ride out, but depending on the type of policy, you know, whenever it comes up again, it won't renew, because it's not a benefit. Like, a 4-year RNC, the price for it is 100,000, it's the least.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically, if you convert over a 4-year RNC, you're basically getting rid of that policy.
Mhm.
It's not like they're gonna turn that 4-year RNC into a 10-year RNC now. You know what I mean? So you can think about it like that as a transitional benefit. So, this is stuff that like, most of us aren't really gonna get into this too much this week. Maybe a couple of us might see it, but, so what the new premium becomes is whatever the cost for the whole life is. Okay?
Mhm.
That's all. So now they're not paying this 20 bucks anymore, but now they're paying 100 because they're not paying for a 4-year RMC, they're paying for the 100,000 in the whole life. So that goes away.
Like it's an additional 80.
Yeah, you can just let them know, all you're gonna be setting aside is just an additional $80 a month
Yeah.
to know this is locked in for the rest of your life. You're gonna build up $90,000 in paid up insurance and a little bit more than $30,000 in cash value.
Mhm.
So, but now we know it's all locked in permanently. Okay. Anything else? No? All right, so just to simplify things for this week, okay? Start practicing this stuff over the next 2 days. Okay, what we're really talking about here is just keeping it simple. Okay, we're talking about focusing in on final expenses and the FOC, and we're talking about income protection. Okay, basic things again. You know, if we go over 0 to 18, options are going to be shown. What are the options? What are the options? What are the amounts?
25, 15.
25 and 15. Okay, make sure that you pull this over the preferred, and it's actually, you're looking up 15,100 because it's going to give them a better rate. Okay,
Mhm.
so when we're getting to that 20 to 50, 55, what are we going to be focusing on in those areas?
Income protection.
Income protection and final expenses, right?
Mhm.
Because let's be honest, even if we end up just taking care of final expenses, they're in a better situation than what they were before. Even if we end up taking care of income protection, we know that they're always going to have the convertibility to go to final expenses. Okay? So figure out what's the most important when you go to the needs analysis and see what the difference is and give them what they need the most. Okay? If it's referrals, really I would say child safe referrals, let's focus on income protection. If it's people that are just these age groups, go ahead and start them off and show them their final expenses, if they have a bunch of what they need through their job. Okay? And then when we're getting to that 50, I would say that 55 range, the 50 to 55 range, that's where we can have some fun and get some bigger premiums. Because most of these people are making a decent income at that point in their life. They don't have as many bills, maybe their kids are raised. And that's where you can start just focusing on final expenses, what I would say. But you can use whatever they need to pay off their mortgage. Or you can use whatever they need for 1 to 3 years of income, okay, to then be what they can take a paid up option off as well. And we're getting to 60 to 80, gets easy again, right? Just the final expenses. What are we talking about the amounts for them?
30, 20, 21, 15.
Yep. So think about those ranges. Everything in between here though, just plug it in and see what's most important to them. Okay? Just plug it in and see what's most important to them. Then whenever you build that up, just build it up the fact that, the most important thing is to make sure your final expense never burn on your family. Okay, we know we need at least, when we go over and establish what they needed through this, just by basically showing them what the average cost is today, through their life expectancy, then we basically give them more options. So if it's 15,000 here, and let's say that somebody is 45 years old, they're gonna live almost another 40 years, bump out 20, bump out there. Now we get out to here, 30 and 60. You could even make that your options. Okay? It's like simple as far as that goes. Okay? Whatever you show on there, even if they're 40 years old, show them those three and then come back and you can show them, 60, 30, and 15. Okay? Guess which one everybody else does in your situation? 30, right? So at least that, where you take care of all that. Where you can say, okay, they need 60, so maybe you'll start off and you'll do 100, and you'll do 60, and you'll do 30. Okay? Usually I don't start off with this here and use that as a C, because I usually want to keep that in my back pocket of what I can reduce them down to. Okay, but I don't want to reduce somebody down to 7,000 though, because that's silly. So if this is becoming an issue to get them qualified for this, then what product could we go to if we're just focusing on final expenses? 10-year. Okay? If it's too expensive to take care of, all of their, let's say their income with a whole life, what's something that we could go to there? 4 year, right? 4 year. Okay? So, does that help you guys at all? I didn't just confuse everybody? No? I know it's a lot of information, just try and keep it simple. Basically all we're doing, everything needs to be the same through the first half of the presentation. That's where we're collecting our referrals. That's where we're getting more people to call, more people to get on our schedule. Get to the needs analysis, we're going through the needs analysis, asking them, I'm sure you probably have life insurance through your job, right? Okay, great. How much? Those types of things, okay? When you're asking them about their income in the beginning, to establish what's going to be comfortable for them, right? Where it goes into the $3 to $4. Well, when you're asking about their income, I ask personally what they make per year. What do you make per year? Not after taxes or anything like that. I want to give them the biggest number to know about. Because when I ask you, what do you make per year? Are you going to tell me what you're making after taxes? No, like when people tell you what they make, their job, they're not going to tell you, I made 50,000, but I only took home 35. They're going to say I made 50,000. Why? Because they're proud of the bigger number. You know what I mean? So think about it like that. So I'm asking you, Hannah, okay, Hannah, what do you make per year in income? 50,000? Another good thing too is you work with a bunch of guys through the same groups, they have the same jobs, but you can start telling them how much money they make. Like a lot of these UPS drivers, they'll get all excited. You know what I mean? Because they might be making 90 grand. So like a lot of them make. The guys are the truck drivers for UPS, and they'll be like, they'll like act like they're cool, and I say, well, you probably make like 90 grand like all the other guys, right? Then I'm basically telling them like, good job, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those guys will be like, oh yeah, we got everything in savings, we're fine, we can take care of all this. You know what I mean? Then I can come back and let them know, you probably make 90 grand like all the other guys, right? So, and they know. Or if you're working like when I was working with a lot of the gas bill guys, there were certain guys, certain levels, they were making like 60 grand, some guys would be making 100, some guys would be making like 120, 150. So when I knew like the same types of positions, I would tell them that, and then it's not a big deal. Like, big deal you make 150 grand. All that means is that your family needs more protection.
Yeah.
So, so those are some things there. But really just keeping it simple. All our job is, I'm gonna break this whole thing down. And what I'm trying to do to help you guys even simplify this even more. All our job is to this whole entire thing is, first of all, is to take control, build rapport, collect referrals, educate them, educate them on what the needs are, what their situation is there, expose the need. Every single person that's on this planet has a need for final expense protection. Everybody that has a dependent or has a significant other that depends on their income has a need for income protection, okay? So expose the need. So we're gonna expose the need. Every single person we sit down with is gonna have a need for final expense. And the people that have dependents or have children or a significant other that depends on their income is gonna need income protection. Once we expose the need, we gotta pin the cost. What I mean by pinning the cost is painting that picture. So we gotta make them think about this, like, what's gonna happen, you know, Hannah, if you were to come up with $30,000 all at once? You know what I mean? Thinking about that. Down the road, we need to make sure it's never a burden on your family. Then I can come back when I'm going through this stuff, when I'm closing it down and say, you know, obviously it's a whole lot easier for us to set aside $3 a day right now, Hannah, than it would be for your family to have to come up with $50,000 all at once, right? Okay? So pin the cost, paint the picture. These two areas right here is where we make them feel uncomfortable. That's where they should start like feeling kind of itchy and like exposed and uncomfortable, kind of feel uncomfortable in their chair. You're like, oh man, this is a problem, you know? This is what creates, what would you say this creates? Creates urgency. If they care about their family, it's going to create urgency. After we've identified the definite need, then we're going to give them the solution. A permanent solution, okay? Once we give them the solutions, make them pick one. We close. Close and stay closed. When I give these people these options and I'm saying which one works best, I'm not looking up at them, I'm not saying anything. I'm staring down at the paper until they pick one. When you say B, what do? Circle it, right? Because you just picked that. That's yours now. Okay, as soon as they pick it, and we're closing them and we circle it, now this is theirs. They just picked it. I didn't tell them which one. I said which one works best. You just picked it. Okay? Then from there, I'm going to do my takeaway. Okay, great. Hannah, we know that's what you need, but I don't even know if you can qualify. Let's see if you can even qualify. Medical questions? Coming out of there? Doesn't look like you should get you qualified. Who do you want this money to go to? Giving it away. So they picked it, they're going to give it to their family. We took it away, gave it back to them, and then said who you're going to give it to. Okay? And then you just start hammering the questions. Just start going right from the beneficiaries, going through the height and weight, tell them to go ahead and grab the driver's license. Okay? Well, this is closing them down here when we picked it.
Well, what if
Okay.
they pick it and they don't want it? That happens to me all the time.
Well, then there's something along the way they're missing.
Yeah, then if they're picking it and not wanting it.
What are you getting as far as rebuttals go?
Isn't there?
I don't know, a lot of things.
Okay? Well, problem is we're probably not doing the presentation the same way every single time. So we need to make sure that if you're going to do any of this kind of stuff here, that you're focused in on. Everything has to be exactly the same all the way through, every single time. Okay? You don't even need to do a drawing or anything.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't need to right now. Okay? So you can just play that video, because guess what it says they need anyhow. It goes through the different things that life insurance pays out for, right? So you don't even need to. You didn't even get in that, because we didn't even get in the type of life insurance, because guess what? We just show them what it is in whole life and take care of their final expenses. We can do that all day. Or we can just say, you know, which one is the most important, and if it most likely is going to be the income protection, right? Then you can just give them what you need to make the adjustments and show them the options. So that's all I'm saying is once you get to that point where you expose the need, now we're getting to through the needs analysis and everything, we show the video for the final expenses and show them what it is. Okay? Show them it's 15 right now, it's going to be 30 down the road. The only thing you got to take into consideration is how long they're going to live. And then just give them those options. So, but what are you getting at that point?
Well, I mean, like, on Wednesday I had, the husband picked one and the wife, like, pretty much told him no.
because she said that they weren't gonna pay anything for life insurance. They had like, they both had term policies, but with other people, but she was like, I'm already paying all this money for life insurance, I'm not gonna pay anymore.
Okay, did we spend it?
Yeah,
How much life insurance did they have?
I don't know, I
Okay.
can't remember.
So if we establish how much they have, okay, first of all, one thing is that if one person is saying no, we need to be able to make sure that we're focusing on that person. If you're telling me no, let's say it's Brody and Sarah, and you're coming back and Brody picks one, he says, yeah, this is what we want to go with, and you're saying no. Okay, well now I gotta pull out the fact, why are you even saying that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I already established the point that there's a problem. Here's the thing, even though you guys have coverage through your job, we know that's only gonna be there while you're working. Or even though you guys have term insurance, we know that's only gonna be there for a short period of time,
Right.
to continue to go up in cost, okay? So down the road, that's not gonna be there when you get to average life expectancy.
Right.
Because you're not gonna be able to afford it, or it's gonna expire out before that. So the problem is down the road, is that the cost for your final expenses are gonna be, let's just say it was $30,000, are gonna be $30,000, okay? So if we don't do anything about this right now, the only thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna continue to get more expensive and be a larger problem.
Right, that's what I told
Okay,
them.
so that's why everybody else in your situation is making sure we have this locked in right now, and then down the road, okay, you're always gonna know this is never gonna be burden on your family ever again, okay? So the other thing is that as you get more experience, you can pull those policies and see what kind of policy it is. If it's not a convertible policy, well, there's another way that you can get somebody's foot in the door, depending on what they have, okay, to protect the need. Depending on what their age is and how long they've had that term policy, you might even be able to show them how a 4-year RNC would take care of all this income, and then down the road, you can convert it
That's
over to
what-
whole life.
His was 10 and hers was 20, they weren't convertible, and I didn't think about showing them a 4-year RNC.
They weren't convertible?
No,
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, there's another progression to this.
right,
But the biggest way to not have those types of rebuttals, when somebody picks one, is if you establish a big enough problem. If the problem is clear and definite, and they know what the issues are they're dealing with, they don't have enough life insurance, so them say spend it. So even if you tell me you got 150 grand in life insurance, and you make 50 grand a year, I know that you still are exposed by 100,000
right.
and needing 2 more years of your income. Oh, you don't have any whole life? And also down the road, you need to make sure you have at least 30,000 locked in to take care of your final expenses. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this locked in. You know, we're gonna take care of this today. That type of thing, okay? So everything should still be the same. I'm not telling you guys to change anything from the start, okay? From the start to the finish, okay? You gotta take control. So we went through this list here, okay? This is gonna be rapport. This is gonna be the presentation, where we're collecting all those referrals. This is where we're getting into educating them. Okay, and life insurance. This is where we're going through the needs analysis. And then even if you just stop right here, and it's final expense, and then you go to this here, show the video, show the need, and then when you're coming out to show them that video there, and they know what that definite problem is, they need at least 30,000 to take care of their final expenses. Easy transition from that to go to the paper. It's just very simply going to be what I'm going to do. Obviously, we established this problem. So what we know, Sarah, is that we're going to need at least $30,000 to take care of our final expenses when we die. Okay, right now we don't have anything. Okay, so there's a definite need of at least 30,000 to make sure that's never a burden on our family. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple different options, what everybody else is doing in your situation, to make sure that this will never be a burden on your family ever again. And I just go on my computer and make adjustments. Same thing with income. We know you need at least 5,000. We know you need at least 5 times your income to make sure that there's always going to be food on this table and a roof over your family's head when you die. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple different options of what everybody else is doing in your situation. Okay, to make sure that your family's never going to be put in a position where there's no income in this house, or where there's not going to be food on the table and a roof over their head. So just reiterate what we already said and keep on going through it. Okay. So does that help out at all? Okay, so just keep it simple, keep on doing the same thing all the way through. Now all we're doing is, instead of going through mortgage and going through child education and those types of things, we're just establishing what the big problem is, and then we're just going from there to go into showing the options, which one works best. Same thing, qualify. making sure it's all closed down and sealed up. Okay? So, you guys, any other guys have any questions? I know we just went for like 2 hours, so is any of this stuff helping you guys?
Yeah.
Everything from medications to this, just keep it simple. I'm not telling you to do, you gotta do the same presentation in every single home. So all I'm saying is like final expense and income and show them the options to close them down. I'm not saying it to do your own presentation or anything like that, okay? So we keep it simple like this to help us close a lot more down, and also it's gonna help you guys know what to see, because really this review preview stuff that we do, that's basically what we do, right? When we're talking about a review preview, going through this stuff, just know in the age groups, practice this stuff. You know, come up with scenarios for yourself. Come up with scenarios for yourself, and then just be able to put it in the computer and know where you're going with it, you know? But it's all the same as far as that goes. Nobody gets everything